Hey everyone. I haven't decided if I wanted to count this as a vlog or not. I guess I can. I will anyway. I usually talk about Jehovah's Witnesses in my videos, but that's obviously because I was born and raised as one, and from the experiences I went through being in it, and because of my parents being hardcore devout that they are. People are suicidal for a number of reasons. And if there's someone who is really smart, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, can see the reason behind it, why they are the way they are that way, they understand that reason why they're suicidal. And my reason, as I mentioned in my previous videos, was obviously because I was born and raised a Jehovah's Witness. It's not something I can just permanently forget about. Again, it was something I was born into. Technically, negative comments I can usually tend to ignore. But I've made videos like this before where I've explained things the best I can. I don't see how low you have to sink to laugh at someone for being suicidal because of the religious cult that I was once in. I don't see how it's funny to laugh at someone for being, again, suicidal in a religious cult like the Jehovah's Witnesses are. But it's unfortunate because 98%, and more often than not, obviously, like my own parents, for example, don't realize the sabotaging and the guilt and the manipulation they put onto someone who left, or make someone feel guilty to try to convince them to come back when they know they won't. Obviously, granted me, I'm never stepping foot back in a place that never worked for me. Again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that someone was or is suicidal. I mean, there's some people that really aren't, and then there's some people that are. It's like a half and half type of thing. Like I said, I don't see how someone as low as they are, as miserable as they are, to laugh at someone that they used to be suicidal. Again, it's not something someone can forget, especially if they were born and raised in a position where it's not something they wanted. But when you're in a religious cult, you can't express your feelings. You're not allowed to express your feelings of why you are, for whatever reason. You're supposed to not think of anything except, again, Jehovah, this Jehovah creator, this entity that's supposed to bring you happiness when it really doesn't. It's just a bunch of made-up men that are a part of a corrupt organization, and there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that know that out there. The ones that are not closed-minded to it. Anyway, like I said, there are people that are suicidal for different reasons. And if you can pretty much see if they are or not, I'm not saying that everybody is or isn't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there are some people that are suicidal for different reasons. And me, again, being born and raised in a religious cult like the Jehovah's Witnesses, put a lot of pressure onto me. Not only emotionally, but physically as well on top of it. Usually I tend to ignore the negative comments, but this one kind of made me want to abrupt to talk about it, be able to explain the thought of it, the fact of it. I know there's people out there that, like I said, I have friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they understand why I used to be suicidal and why I talk about the feelings of what I used to go through. There's a thing called RTS, or religious trauma syndrome, and it's an actual thing. It's basically like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, brought on by people who aren't allowed to express their feelings. So it creates these emotions of not being able to express your feelings of how you feel about that religion you're in. Some people, if they're not born and raised in it like I was, some people who have been in it for quite a few years or so probably only did it because they're forced to. They put a thought into it thinking it's going to be for them, and then they're controlled, basically. They're trapped in it, and they don't even realize it because of the excessive amount of mind control that's being done to them. The Jehovah's Witnesses, at least the headmen, are these group of elders at Bethel that are part of a corrupt organization, which is why they talk about the United Nations a lot in their articles. I remember learning about this before, being, again, born and raised as one, but I never put a lot of thought into it. And it's been coming around back to me more often and thinking about it. The reason they talk about it so much to their followers is because they don't want them to find out they're part of this corrupt organization. And there are open-minded Jehovah's Witnesses out there that know they're a part of it. Some are trapped in only because they feel it's necessary to, only to be able to talk to their friends and family, if they have family that are Jehovah's Witnesses. Me, like I said, forgetting that I was suicidal because of the Jehovah's Witnesses is not something I can just easily forget. It's something, again, that because of that cult did a lot of sabotaging damage to me. That I'm not saying that I'm gonna permanently forget about it, but eventually over time I may or may not, I guess, think about it as much as I used to, but it isn't something I can forget about. I started getting panic attacks. Now, they're not nearly as terrible as they used to be, but I started getting panic attacks when I was 16. And I started getting these panic attacks because of all the pressure of becoming a Jehovah's Witness and being a Jehovah's Witness, only because of my parents being hardcore devout that they are. And it really affected how I lived. Not something I could have controlled. And when I did leave, I left out of force, and I mentioned this before in my previous videos. I left out of force. And, I mean, I was going to leave anyway, but for the situation that would happen, I left out of force. And I'm actually glad I did, because seeing the exposure and what they do to their families and stuff like that, I'm glad I never stepped foot in it. I'm glad I wouldn't step foot in a Kingdom Hall again. I wouldn't never go back to a place that manipulates their followers just to tell them what they want them to hear. Like, Armageddon is around the corner. United Nations is a corrupt organization. When, like I said, they're part of it themselves, which is why they keep repeating the same thing, because they don't want you guys to do the research yourself and stuff like that. If you can't see that for yourself, well, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you that you can't see that they only tell you these things because that's what they want you to hear. That's how much excessive mind control they have, you wonder. Why they wouldn't bring up the United Nations for a reason if that wasn't something they were a part of themselves. Again, these head men at Bethel, 6 or 7 head men, are a part of a corrupt organization. Again, that's why they keep repeating the same thing in their articles to you guys, because they don't want you to do any research and find out they're a part of that corrupt organization. When they tell you not to get into political government and stuff like that, they're already part of that themselves. That's what I just wanted to address. It's a real thing that people in religious cults, such as Jehovah's Witnesses, are suicidal because of that. They're not allowed to express their feelings. They're not allowed to explain why they feel depressed or frustrated or angry for any sort of reason. Because of, again, how brainwashed they got them, or whatever you want to call it. It's unfortunate it's like that in the Jehovah's Witnesses. There are people who, friends and family that aren't religious, that love you for who you are, not for what you are. But for those who are trapped in, can't see that because they're throwing their life away into something that's never going to happen. These headmen got you wrapped around their finger. They'll tell you anything just to get you to believe it, and you'll believe it. Negative or positive, they'll tell you anything that they want you to hear just to get you to believe it. I know you Jehovah's Witnesses out there like to watch these ex-Jehovah's Witness videos out of spite. I'm just leaving my thoughts and expressing my feelings. Something I always like doing. And I know there's other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses out there that express their feelings too, which is why they do it. It's unfortunate that for the friends and family that would rather believe a bunch of headmen or higher brothers and elders and COs and circuit overseers over someone who actually is a victim of, as try not to make it as touchy as I can, but when someone's a victim of sexual abuse, they force them to get disfellowshipped, but not the person that did it to them. I don't see how that's fair, but that's the mind control that's being done. Again, that's something that they tell you what they want you to hear, that this person is disfellowshipped for no reason at all. They won't publicly give full description, but they'll tell you this person is disfellowshipped. And when someone is caught smoking a cigarette, they'll disfellowship them, or whatever. And it's like, that doesn't correlate or go, that shouldn't even be a thing. If someone is being sexually abused, they should talk about it, being able to express their feelings. But being caught smoking a cigarette, instantly disfellowship. But again, that's part of mind control. And then the victim that is sexually abused in the hall or whatever loses their friends and family over it. Anyway, I didn't mean to get offhand with that part, but just something I've noticed and I wanted to talk about it. Like I said, what I meant to say in the beginning is some people that are suicidal for a number of reasons. I'm not saying that all people are suicidal, obviously. That's not what I said. I'm just saying some people are suicidal for a handful of reasons. And being in a religion or a religious cult can be one of them. Like I said, for me, being born and raised a Jehovah's Witness and then leaving it is not something I can just permanently forget about. I mean, it'll come back from my mind time to time, but it's not something I can just totally permanently forget about. That's not how it works. I don't see how miserable you can be of a person to laugh at someone for being suicidal when they were when I was in that cult. But that's what I wanted to leave. So, anyway, like I said, I guess I could count this as a vlog. Haven't quite decided yet. Anyway, either way, I want to put this out there. If any ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have gotten this far, or my friends that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses but watch my videos anyway, if you have watched it this far, thank you for your love and support, being there for me even in my darkest of times, because that's a part of life. Like I have for you, that's what a friend is, someone who's there for them because they want to, not because they have to. For you guys love me for who I am, so I love you guys for who you are. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.